Given the recent trends of propaganda, internet terrorism, and cyberbullying, how do we make sure that we are actually protecting the citizens and especially the youth on this platform, while at the same time offering platforms the space to innovate?
To ensure our online engagement and safety, first, we ourselves should be more aware and more prepared for the cybersecurity issues, such as have the knowledge of distinguishing malware and paying attention to our important personal information when posting on social media platforms. Besides, digital enterprises should prioritize the protection of customers' privacy in their business plans, and governments should update the policies for the regulation of the rapidly changing digital world. As girls and women are more prone to encounter trouble in cyberspace, such as cyberbullying and harassment, youths as active users on different online platforms can actually do several simple things, such as posting and retweeting relevant posts, using our potential influence to call for society's attention to the gender issue in the digital world. How can youths be more engaged with the different stakeholders to build trust and safer online experiences for girls and women?
We have been able to witness startups become literally more powerful than some states. We have been able to see a trend of companies having the ability and the responsibility of governing their own platforms. And laws have adapted in such a way as to offer this middle ground where both internet companies and states govern over platforms. Given the recent trends of propaganda, internet terrorism, and cyberbullying, how do we make sure that we are actually protecting the citizens and especially the youth on this platform, while at the same time offering platforms the space to innovate?
To ensure our online engagement and safety, first, we ourselves should be more aware and more prepared for the cybersecurity issues, such as have the knowledge of distinguishing malware and paying attention to our important personal information when posting on social media platforms. Besides, digital enterprises should prioritize the protection of customers' privacy in their business plans, and governments should update the policies for the regulation of the rapidly changing digital world. As girls and women are more prone to encounter trouble in cyberspace, such as cyberbullying and harassment, youths as active users on different online platforms can actually do several simple things, such as posting and retweeting relevant posts, using our potential influence to call for society's attention to the gender issue in the digital world. How can youths be more engaged with the different stakeholders to build trust and safer online experiences for girls and women?
We have been able to witness startups become literally more powerful than some states. We have been able to see a trend of companies having the ability and the responsibility of governing their own platforms. And laws have adapted in such a way as to offer this middle ground where both internet companies and states govern over platforms. Given the recent trends of propaganda, internet terrorism, and cyberbullying, how do we make sure that we are actually protecting the citizens and especially the youth on this platform, while at the same time offering platforms the space to innovate?
To ensure our online engagement and safety, first, we ourselves should be more aware and more prepared for the cybersecurity issues, such as have the knowledge of distinguishing malware and paying attention to our important personal information when posting on social media platforms. Besides, digital enterprises should prioritize the protection of customers' privacy in their business plans, and governments should update the policies for the regulation of the rapidly changing digital world. As girls and women are more prone to encounter trouble in cyberspace, such as cyberbullying and harassment. Youths, as active users on different online platforms, can actually do several simple things, such as posting and retweeting relevant posts, using our potential influence to call for society's attention to the gender issue in the digital world. How can youths be more engaged with the different stakeholders to build trust and safer online experiences for girls and women?
All right.
We have been able to witness startups.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. How was the lunch? Great. I love great. Did I hear good? Okay. What was your favorite meal from lunch? You didn't get the dessert. Oh, so you did twice this time. Amazing. That's good. That's good to connect with the dessert. All right. Thank you very much. Welcome back once again. We are actually going to be continuing with another session, but I would love us to, if possible, you can take your seat so that we begin. I'm hoping you enjoyed the discussions, the dialogues that happened in the morning, and we are here to have more interesting dialogues. Now, we thank those who are following us online. Those that are following us online, thank you very much. Please feel free to engage. The programs, you will get to see where to go, looking at the links you are given in your program. Today, we are opening the program with the third intergeneration dialogue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this dialogue is about protecting, meaning building a safer online world. The session will be moderated by Juliana Novaes, Generation Connect Visionary Board member, and she's going to be taking us through. Online, she'll be joined by Julia, and Julia will also be online. Now, the video that you saw was pretty much to set the tone, but I understand that some of us actually have just entered. So I'm going to ask the technical team to allow me and play it just one more time as Juliana also gets ready to moderate the next session. Thank you.
We have been able to witness startups become literally more powerful than some states. We have been able to see a trend of companies having the ability and the responsibility of governing their own platforms. And laws have adapted in such a way as to offer this middle ground where both internet companies and states govern over platforms. Given the recent trends of propaganda, internet terrorism, and cyberbullying, how do we make sure that we are actually protecting the citizens, and especially the youth, on this platform, while at the same time offering platforms the space to innovate?
To ensure our online engagement and safety, first, we ourselves should be more aware and more prepared for the cybersecurity issues, such as having the knowledge of distinguishing malware and paying attention to our important personal information when posting on social media platforms. Besides, digital enterprises should prioritize the protection of customers' privacy in their business plans, and governments should update the policies for the regulation of the rapidly changing digital world. As girls and women are more prone to encounter trouble in cyberspace, such as cyberbullying and harassment, youths, as active users on different online platforms, can actually do several simple things, such as posting and retweeting relevant posts, using our potential influence to call for society's attention to the gender issue in the digital world. How can youths be more engaged with the different stakeholders to build trust and safer online experiences for girls and women?
Thank you. Juliana, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, MC. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope you had a great lunch and that you're enjoying our second day of event. As a member of the Generation Connect Global Visionaries Board, I am extremely happy to see so many people in this auditorium. So I would like to thank you so much for your presence here today, and also to those who are joining us online. Thank you so much. Um, Also, I was really happy yesterday to be talking to so many people from Rwanda. I think a conference is only successful if it manages to engage the local community. So I was extremely pleased to see so many people from this country that kindly hosted our event today. So today in this panel, we're going to be addressing an issue that has everything to do with COVID-19, but also everything to do with online safety. Today we have with us a magnificent list of panelists. I am personally quite intimidated by the people that we have here today in this panel. We're going to be, well, talking about the changes that have been happening in the last 2 years in our lives due to COVID-19 and how this implies in more exposure of our privacy and more threats to harassment, to online violence, and all the things that we face now in our online world. Since we faced quite a sudden transition to the online environment. So I'm going to be introducing my panelists. We have some people there joining us on site, as you can see, but we also have online panelists. I'm going to start with our first online panelist, which is Mr. Vince Cerf, who does not really require an introduction, but I'm going to provide one. Well, Mr. Vince Cerf is an internet pioneer and is known as one of the fathers of the internet. And you can see him on the video there. He's going to be joining us online. After that, we're going to have Ms. Sharifa Atangiba from Ghana. She's an officer of cyber tech standards at the Cybersecurity Authority in Ghana. And she is right here joining us in person. After that, we'll have Mr. Sabin Sormas from Romania. He is a member of the parliament and the president of Information Technology and Communication Committee in Romania, who is the country that will kindly host our next plenipotentiary conference, PP22, actually. And then we'll have Ms. Alicia Tambe, who is head of international organizations for connectivity and inclusion at Meta, joining us here in person. Mr. Bolutife Ajiza, who I have the pleasure to have as my colleague at the Generation Connect Global Visionaries Board, also sitting there. And online, we'll have Ms. Mercy Wanao, who's Director of Legal and Board Secretary at the Communications Agency in Kenya. Well, we also have the support of Ms. Yulia Lozanova today, who will be our online moderator. Well, she works for the ITU, and she will be sharing the inputs and the questions from our online participants in the chat. To kick off our panel, I will first give the floor to Mr. Vince Cerf, who will share a bit of his trajectory and will share his perspective on how to build an online safer world. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to join you. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to talk about safety and security on the internet. I want to suggest to you two words that we might all keep in mind. One of them is accountability, and the other one is agency. On the accountability side, I think it's vital that we hold people accountable for what they do on the internet. I could not emphasize this more because the problems that we have are often introduced by people who don't have your best interests at heart. The Secretary General of the United Nations has initiated a major effort on digital cooperation, a roadmap towards that end, and other activities that I hope will produce a safer and more secure internet. That may, in fact, involve things like how we protect digital evidence that we might collect from online crimes, how we achieve law enforcement cooperation across international boundaries, because we have the problem that harms can occur across those boundaries in different jurisdictions. We might need to adopt standards for authentication on a global basis in order to assure that the parties that we're interacting with digitally are the ones that we expect. The agency side of this equation involves you and me. It involves a kind of digital literacy so that we are aware of the potential risk factors in online and we know how to deal with them. At the very top of my list is something called critical thinking, which just says when you're confronted with information from the online world, please think, where did it come from? Is there corroborating evidence for assertions that are being made? Is there some motivation for the content you're encountering? Are they trying to convince you of something that you shouldn't believe? So wetware up here is very important. Strong authentication is also your friend here. You don't want someone to pretend to be you. So in addition to usernames and passwords, two-factor authentication using cryptography is extremely important, as is cryptography for confidentiality. Again, we want to use those tools to protect your privacy. And we would like to be assured that the people whose services we use online provide us with those tools. We also have to be smart about the fact that not all software works as it is intended to work, which means it needs to be updated to correct mistakes and bugs. That means we have to learn to be very regular in our habits of updating the software. And we have to make sure that the software updates have come from the right sources and haven't been altered on their path from the source to the destination. Finally, just as another simple example, we should be aware of such things as phishing, where people send you emails that are excited in tone and they tell you you need to share a piece of personal information to help a friend. When in fact, it's someone trying to induce you to share information that you shouldn't be sharing, like account information or sending a gift card or doing some other action that's in their interest but not yours. So I realize that's a rather long intro. Thank you for letting me chew up some of your time. I'm eager to hear from the rest of the panelists, their views on this area.
Thank you so much, Vint, for sharing some of the key points for our discussion today. I think some of the points that you bring relate very much to the role of the user in protecting themselves online. So what are some of the tools that we could use to make ourselves better protected? I will turn now to Ms. Sharifa with a question that relates very much to those points. The first question I would like to ask you is, how do you think we can better protect young people on the internet? And from a more of a user perspective, what do you think is the role of the young people in promoting their own safety and creating their own safer spaces online?
Okay, thank you for your question. I think that most importantly, cybersecurity or being safe online is a collective responsibility. And also, you can look at cybersecurity or being safe online in three perspectives, which I'm going to categorize as individuals, businesses, and governments. What are we doing as these categories? So for individuals, protecting yourself, you just have to be assertive. I mean, the security measures that you would put in place as an individual outside the internet world, you should transfer that knowledge and skills on the cyberspace as well. And remember that the internet never forgets. Once you post online, you may take it out later, but someone might have taken a screenshot and it might resurface in the future. So whatever we do as individuals, we should remember that the internet never forgets. And as businesses too, businesses should also remember that we are not protecting only the technology. We have the people, the processes, and the technology. There are three key areas here. So as much as we are protecting our technology by ensuring there's firewalls and all of that, the people we employ, the cleaners, we should have good background checks to ensure that there's security. And for governments to having a national cybersecurity policy is very key. It gives a sense of direction on how the space should be regulated. And I'd like to use this opportunity to share with you that Ghana has implemented the Cybersecurity Act 2020, which was brought out last year. I have a copy of it here. If you'd like to have a look at it after this, I would like to share it to you. Yeah, so that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Riva. Thank you for your points. I think in the last part of your speech, you briefly mentioned as well the role of governments and the role of policy into this discussion. I think this relates very much to my next question that will be directed to Mr. Sarmas. From the role of a regulator and the role of a policymaker, what do you think are the challenges of addressing the issue of online security online? And what do you think are important steps that governments and parliaments need to take in order to ensure that young people have a safer online space?
Thank you for the question. I think that the young people are most entitled to raise this question about having a safe cyberspace because they are most common users and are most exposed. When I was just around 11 years, I was the very first victim in my life of a cyber crime. Because I was using, at that time, by the way, I didn't imagine to be in the same panel with one of the founders of the internet of TCP/IP. So I was just discovering how to use the internet. And I was using a dial-up connection. Maybe the youngsters didn't know, but today to upload Amazon.com over dial-up, it would take like 3 minutes. So using for the first month in my life, the internet, at the moment, a pop-up showed asking me to click in order to play a nice game. I clicked, the dial-up connection interrupted, another one was established, but a very expensive one. My father had to pay $100 for that for 10 minutes on that connection, and he wasn't happy. Believe me, he wasn't happy. So I was, for the very first time in my life, a victim of a cybercrime. Who was guilty for that? Was the technology? Was the internet provider who should block such a connection? Was me? I was a child. I think it's not a crime trying to play a game online. Was my father, who was not proficient in surfing on the internet as well? The answer is the cybersecurity in general. It's not a simple issue. It's not just a technical problem. And I love what you said before, that cybersecurity is a collective problem today. It's a very complex problem. So we need to address it very first from the people perspective. The people are more important link in cybersecurity chain. And we talked yesterday about the education, and I found out that Rwanda is doing great things in terms of digital literacy, but we need to think as well about cybersecurity literacy. Just imagine somebody, a youngster, learning to ride a bicycle, but without knowing any traffic rules. For sure, at the moment, he's going to be a victim of an accident on the roads. It's the same with cybersecurity. From a legal perspective, we need to build a legal framework that forces, if you want so, that's a strong word, the educational systems to learn from the earliest stages, the students, to use the internet in a very safe way. This can be done both by having digital literacy in schools, by cybersecurity literacy. On the other hand, from a technical perspective, we need to regulate, but we need to pay attention, because regulating too much at a point can be a barrier for the innovation. We need to have such regulation as, I don't know, having solutions which are cybersecure from design. We need to have regulation which have to do more with data protection. GDPR is not, for example, It's implemented in Europe, and GDPR is not about cybersecurity, but it's doing a lot about data protection and the way that that our data is handled over the internet. So this is my thoughts regarding what the politicians should do. They should start from the people, which are the most important link in a cybersecurity chain, starting with education and regulating from a technical perspective as well, but taking care about not stopping the innovation.
Thank you so much. I think you mentioned something that I found quite interesting about this division and layers. So you have the skill layer that relates very much to the people and their ability to use the technology, understand the technology, the technical layer, which relates very much to the technology itself, and then the policy layer that's supposed to incorporate all of those previous ones. And with that in mind, I would like to turn to Ms. Alicia Tambe. With considering this different aspects of cybersecurity, the skills, the policy, and the technology itself, what do you think is the role of the private sector in ensuring a greater, safer and more secure online space for all?
No, thank you so much. And first of all, it's really great to be here. I think there's a lot that we all can learn from you, and some of us weren't that far removed. So I want it to be a really interactive conversation. But in terms of what we're doing at Meta, it's really important to think about digital inclusion and bringing the world together, but you have those aspects of what exactly do you need to do to remain safe online? So I think we think of it in a couple of buckets. First, there's what we need to do to set community standards and community policies that must be followed, age requirements for actually joining our different platforms. There's community standards that, people have to definitely be in consideration of, but then we have over 30,000 people working on these issues, whether it's content reviewers, security, fact checkers, and things of that sort. But then it's also our responsibility to make sure you have the different digital inclusion and skills that are required. For instance, I asked one of my relatives what they would make their password because they're older, they haven't been on social media, and they literally said their first name and their birth date. And that's one of the easiest things that someone can, get into. So it's different courses that are necessary. So we have skills programs. For instance, we have Get Digital, which is our digital citizenship program. It has 5 different pillars, and it focuses on things that you need to really remain safe online. So that's things like how to deal with mental health and bullying and well-being and a lot of different aspects. And that's a global program. But then we also have regional programs, because when you think about solutions, you can't think that something in Africa is going to work for something in Asia. You can't think that something in South Africa is going to work for something in Nigeria. It has to really take into consideration the different local policies, the different opinions that are coming in, and that includes youth. There has to be open consultations to really get these different opinions. So we have different digital skills programs that really discuss what it takes to remain safe online. But then you also need to make sure you're working with other stakeholders. So collaboration is really important. And just like my colleagues were saying, it's important to talk about the government, but business, but civil society. One example that I'll use is Girls in ICT Day. That this is an initiative through the ITU, but you have regional programs that take place. This year, I participated in the African Telecommunications Union's program, which was talking about, girls in Africa, but also how to make sure that they could remain safe online. Through this collaboration, I was from the private sector, but they had people from the government, multilateral institutions, but most importantly, they also had youth in the room. There's going to be reports that come out, and it's important that when we're talking about this, we're all in the room together, having different conversations and hearing what's important. It's important to hear, have you been harassed online? Have you been cyberbullied online? Of course, there's research, but hearing it from others is really important. So there's a lot of different initiatives coming in, but I would just say there's a lot that the private sector can do in terms of making sure that they have these digital literacy programs in place that provide digital skills and online safety. And there has to be trainings of government officials to know what are the different safety implications, and learning from the governments to know what are the problems faced in those countries. But then there also has to be policies that we create and implement. And a lot of that is learning from different stakeholders. And then of course, being here in the room, it's great to hear from us, but I would love to hear a lot of the concerns that are happening from all of you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And speaking about our concerns as a youth group, let's say, I will turn now to Ms. Bolutife Adiza, who is a young engineer. And the question I wanted to ask him is, in your role as a future generation engineer, what do you think a safer online environment consists of? And how do you think our generation can achieve it? And what's our role in it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Juliana, and thanks to everyone who have spoken. I think being safe online actually for me means that an individual protecting themselves, and not just themselves, other people as well, from risks that could jeopardize their personal information, and not just their personal information, also risks that could actually lead to unsafe communication, and also lastly, risks that could negatively impact their mental health and also their physical well-being as well. So I'll just say in 2021, the Ofcom Children and Parents Media Use and Attitudes reports actually found that children nowadays are more engaged online when it comes to using the internet than they have ever been. And we also see that ownership of smart devices and the range of content to which they access is increasing drastically. So the last session we had yesterday in the evening, I think the gentleman from Meta actually described a very interesting idea that is being developed using virtual reality to teach young kids in schools. And I really found that very amazing because from their research, it actually shows that 350% it is, more effective in teaching young people. And I think that's really amazing. And it makes me excited about the future, thinking about things like that. But at the same time, it gives me concern in terms of safety, because the current situation of cyber security right now and online safety, especially for young people, is not the best. Now we are about to have technologies that interact with people in a much more unique, so to speak. It interacts with our bodies even more. So I am interested to also see how companies like Meta are trying to tackle challenges like that, because if we are moving to a 3 times more effective form of interaction between the internet and human beings, I definitely think that there should be solutions that ensure that things don't go awry, especially with young people and children, especially. Yes, and I think learning is becoming more immersive, as seen, but I think it's important that we cater for people who are vulnerable, children, and also for adults also, because we have the older generation that have issues using the internet. So in terms of recommendation for young people like myself on how they can also contribute to this, I think I'll mention 3 things very quickly. First is we should call out unsafe behaviors online. I think that is something that we have always done and we should continue to do, maybe through Twitter and any of our platforms. When we observe that companies are not doing what they promise to do or what they're supposed to do, it's our responsibility to call them out. And secondly, I would say we are also builders, we are also innovators, so we can also build solutions that would work when it comes to online safety. And lastly, I would say it begins with you, it begins with me, it begins with every one of us. And we can also be carriers of this message. We can talk to people around us and look at ways in which we can educate more people to make sure that we have a very safe online space. With that, as for me, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bolo. I think you mentioned. Thank you for the clapping as well. I think you mentioned something really important that has to do with the role of emerging technologies in creating an environment in which we expose ourselves even more. So with this in mind, I would like to turn to our last panelist, who is going to be joining our discussion online, who is Ms. Mercy Wanyol. And what I wanted to ask Mercy is, what do you think are the measures that regulators should adopt to ensure security when it comes to emerging technologies, and how can the voices of youth be heard in this process? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Julia. And I'm very delighted to join this very esteemed panel this afternoon. The whole world is just coming out of COVID. And during COVID, we were exposed to a new reality. And this has pushed a lot of countries to move towards digital transformation. What does this mean? It means that children who are going to be born in this season and going forward will know nothing else but the internet as a means to access even basic services like health, education, and the like. I believe this calls for a higher duty of care of governments, because when particularly children and the youth are exposed to this kind of platforms at a very early age and on a mandatory level, then perhaps this raises the threshold of provision. What happens in the case of youth or young youth or children who have disabilities? There must be some provision made for them. What kind of assurances do we put in place to ensure that youth and children are ready to travel on the internet? I've just seen a small conversation evolving on the chat line about a driver's license to go online. And I very much support this, because surely, even when you own a car and you park it out there and your child wants to drive, there's a mandatory age when they can go on the road. And on top of that, there are some tests they need to take at the driving school in order to hit the road. But isn't it just so sad, so unfortunate that the internet, which has a lot of promise, but also a lot of danger, a lot of young people get in there unsupervised and at any time, and only we do not know where they will end. So this is perhaps one of the things that governments, regulators need to take very seriously, about provision of some kind of awareness threshold, some kind of certification that you can do. Let's say, for example, at age 5, for example, and then as you move on, it escalates so that you get a sort of a badge that ensures that once you pass that exam or that certification at a certain age, you have a certain level of awareness. There have been quite a number of case studies that have demonstrated that with a huge part of the world increasing in connectivity, children are getting exposed at very, very high levels. And this is really our own creation, because in providing the pipe, then we really must be careful about what gets into the pipe and into the eyes and the hands of the youth and the children that are in the various countries. Also, this is also a call for governments to really step up compliance and enforcement. In the case of Kenya, for example, we have the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act. And I believe there have been quite a number of pieces of legislation that have been passed around this issue. The real test now will be to ensure enforcement so that this becomes a deterrent. It also becomes an awareness creation tool, that you deal with the internet, you deal with it responsibly. And when you fail to deal with it responsibly, there are real and active consequences to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Nancy. Now we're gonna turn to a more interactive part of this panel, in which we're gonna invite somebody from the audience, to present their views on the issue of how can the different sectors collaborate to create a safer online environment. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask for those interested in sharing their perspective to raise their hands. I'm gonna pick one person from the audience, and this person will be invited to share the name and the country where they come from. And after that, we're going to open for the Q&A. This is, an idea to have a more interactive session in which we can hear also your perspectives and incorporate that into the discussion. So if you're interested in sharing your perspective briefly, around 2 minutes intervention each, please raise your hand and we're going to pass the microphone. I see there's a hand raised there. Please say your name and where you come from, please, and what is your perspective on how we can collaborate for a safer online environment? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. First, thank you for the experience. My name is Alfiah Rizky Ramdini. I'm from Indonesia. And yeah, I'm coming from a developing country, which, you know, we have a face a lot digital inclusion. We happen to face like a digital transformation. But unfortunately, it's not following with digital literacy, which, you know, makes us people coming from older generation and younger generations tend to face like a security breach and data rob. And you know, I think I might to feel like there's a thing that we should concern in terms of like regulation. So I want to ask this maybe for the panelists, what might we still like in terms of, you know, recent policy for international level or even national level, and intend to bring up, you know, in the future framework or future framework or future regulations in the country. And because based on my experience in my country, there's a lot of things that's still not covered in the regulations. So for example, it's hard to track a people that, you know, doing some cybercrime because the regulation in my country is very weak, and they just going out like there's nothing to do, and it's maybe very concerned. And I want to ask what may be still like in the recent policy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input and also for the question. Well, considering we also had a question from the audience already, I wanted to ask if any of the panelists would like to take this question, and then we can move on to the online audience to see if there are any questions from there.
As member of the parliament, I think I should to say a few words about this. So what you just said, it's a huge challenges for governments and for parliaments in general, having regulation that allows them to track extremely fast the people who are committing cyber crimes. It's a strong debate, at least in my country and all around Europe, related to how much power should institutions that are in charge or protecting us against cyber crimes or cyber attacks and so on should have. Because in the end, it's about your privacy. It's about protecting your data. So in case you are giving too much power, with all the respect to any public institution, to the government, it might be not in your favor at the point. So we need to give them tools to catch, if you want, the ones who are committing cyber crimes. We need to regulate that. We need to give them the possibility to do that, but having in mind all the time that the privacy of your data, that's the most important thing on the internet.
Thank you so much. I just got a telepathic message here from Julia saying that Mr. Cerf wants to take the floor as well. So please feel free.
Well, thank you so much. These are very important questions, and I would argue that my earlier term, accountability, applies here. Many people, including me, used to think that anonymity was a valuable property of the use of the internet. You didn't have to identify yourself to make use of all of its content. But I'm now persuaded that pseudonymity may be acceptable, but we need a way of piercing the veil in the event of bad behavior. And that needs to work on, on a transnational basis. So we have to see cooperation among governments in order to help others to track down people who are doing harmful things. That's going to require a lot of cooperation, and that's, of course, one reason why the ITU, the United Nations, will be instrumental in helping us establish more global regimes for protecting people's interests.
Thank you so much. Just got another telepathic message here saying that Mrs. Mercy also wants to have the floor. So feel free.
Thank you, Julia. I was going to respond to the question from the young lady about the laws and the policies, the regulatory framework being just generally very weak. And I was going to say, think of regulations as a marathon, not as a sprint. Because when you start developing these frameworks, you set them up within the current reality. And we know that the internet space, the cyberspace is evolving very, 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 very fast. And even as we speak, there are probably some kind of incidences that are happening, which will need to find their way into the law at some point. With the application of more and more sophisticated technologies and all the outcomes that are coming out of it, definitely the law has to change. My view actually is that this is one of the branches of the policy and regulatory framework that is going to undergo very rapid change over time. So let's be patient and keep articulating and supporting law reform as it arises as part of a long marathon, because we are not going to sprint and reach the end. It's going to be a long while coming, but we have to keep on the track. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right now, I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience, and that includes as well the online audience. So if you do have a question and you're not here in Rwanda right now, just type your question and Yulia will let me know. And if you do have a question and you are at the audience, just raise your hand and I will let you know when to speak. Okay, I see we got a question from the gentleman in the front. Please, before you speak, I would ask you to say your name and where you come from. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Mutijima Ali. I'm a Rwandan citizen and a student at the African Leadership University. So I was thinking about what the Member of Parliament just told us, and I have somewhat a dilemma, because I feel like these tools can be really beneficial to track down people committing crimes online. But then I also feel like there's governments that might abuse these tools to like stomp down dissent or political opponents. So I'm kind of confused right now. If there's anything you could tell us about it.
Maybe just to eliminate the confusion, we as a member of the parliaments, we are in charge, at least in our kind of democracy, to protect the people. So the laws we are working for must be developed in such a manner that can offer you both protection about cyber crimes, but protection about any hypothetically abuse from other institutions, you know? So it's as simple as that. We have different type of democracies all around the world. We need to protect the people. I'm talking here in the approach we should have all around the world. I think that this is a matter of trust in cybersecurity. And first of all, we need to trust our public institution. We need to trust the institution that are protecting us. But we as a member of the parliament being elected by the people directly, we should build the laws having in mind everything I said before.
Thank you so much. Anybody else wants to take that question?
Hello. Is my voice audible?
Yes.
All right.
It is.
Okay, so I am Nabil Tirmazi from Pakistan, but basically representing Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, Malaysia. We have been doing quite a lot of media literacy, digital literacy in collaboration with the ITU as well. So I have one suggestion, like since yesterday, we have been talking about the peer-to-peer kind of discussion, collaboration, partnership. But one thing which I would like to suggest, is that we should also be collaborating with the education or the academia to include these kind of subjects in the curriculum. Like what is confirmation bias, cognitive biases, which is all related to cyber threats as well. So I think that we should also talk to the education sector to include these things in their curriculum. Another thing which as Honorable Member of Parliament has mentioned about the data security, and also my friend over here, he also talked about the data security and his concerns. My suggestion would be that the governments, since data collection is essential, but there should be also this kind of awareness that what kind of data is being collected on the government level. So at least people are more aware about that, what is happening with their data. So talking about the privacy thing, the data privacy, and all those kind of stuff. And third thing is the filter bubbles, that we really need to understand and make the youth aware that what are filter bubbles, and also that how it manipulates or us emotionally, politically, ideologically, although there are definitely benefits of filter bubbles as well. But these are the subjects which we really need to talk on the academia level, peer-to-peer level, and also on different other forums. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the intervention. I think Mr. Vincerf wanted the floor.
Well, thank you. I had taken my hand down thinking we might run out of time, but just briefly, I want to reiterate how important this critical thinking idea is in the educational side, teaching people how to deal with online information. By the way, it also works really well for newspapers, magazines, movies, your friends and others who are all sources of information, which you should view with a small degree of suspicion. Asking where did the information come from? Is there, is there corroborating evidence and so on? So that's one thing on the education side, fully agree. The other question, which is how do we deal with the overpowering use by government to suppress information using exactly the same tools that we're trying to use in order to protect people from harm? And I think that's a very hard question. There is a great deal of discussion going on right now within a variety of different UN discussion groups about cybercrime and how to define it and how to cope with it. So keep working on this because we have ways to go before we figure out how to make this a safer environment for everyone, including protecting people from governments that don't have their citizens' interests at heart.
Thank you so much. I think Ms. Alicia will share her intervention as well.
Yeah, I just want to say I completely agree with the gentleman from Pakistan. For instance, Meta has a digital literacy and online safety program in Pakistan, and it works with civil society organizations, educators, and those who are really closest to these issues. But I think generally also, as he was saying with educators, it's very important that even if it's not in the direct curriculum, that both those who are closest to the youth are very informed, which are likely educators and teachers, as well as parents. The Get Digital program that I was talking to you about, it has a train the trainer concept in the sense that it's for teachers and parents as well, where they can use it with their students and with their children. And I think it's really important from the education standpoint because I know many of you know those who spend a lot of the time with you or most of the time with you are your educators, are your teachers. So it's really important that they are empowered to have those tools. And then it also comes down to local content. Are these tools in the local language? It can't, doing, like I said, it's a global solution can't go to a local problem, especially if it isn't addressed in local languages, native languages. It's not just what the national language is. So it definitely is really important to think about what is happening with educators and how the content is being presented when you're talking about online safety.
Thank you so much, Ms. Alicia. We also have an online question. Yulia, would you mind sharing the question with us, please?
Thank you very much, Juliana, with pleasure. So we have actually now 2 questions in the Q&A box. Very good questions indeed. So one of the questions asks, how can governments provide awareness to the citizens, especially those who have not digital telecommunication devices such as smartphones or PCs? So that question is a bit of a 2 questions into one. So that really speaks to the need to connect everyone first, and then to how to also protect those who do not have their own devices, so they will have to rely on public or shared facilities, and how to ensure the security over those shared facilities. And then I take the opportunity to also put out there the second question, which speaks to policies and precisely to the implementation of policies inside the security policies in particular. So how to What else is available if cybersecurity policies either do not exist or are not properly implemented? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julia. Anyone wants to take those two questions?
It's Vint, all right. First of all, I think one of the most important things we can do is to share our experiences with trying to cope with these problems, what works and what doesn't work, and especially why did it work or why did it not work? Understanding what works in context is extremely important. And so having governments share their experiences, the public and private sectors engaging as well, in a multi-stakeholder dialogue, I think will help us find ways of coping with these problems, but we are going to have to work at it. We need to share our experiences in all the various contexts to figure out what we can do that's effective.
Thank you so much.
I try to answer a bit about the first question, about the topic, the first question. The government cannot solve this by itself. Any government in the world, the government doesn't have such a big capacity. We were talking about ambassadors, digital ambassadors that Rwanda has. Okay, you have such programs, it's great, but you cannot reach the entire population. Being a global problem, being a problem that impacts all the people in the world, we need to work together on this. For example, what's happening in many countries is that companies that have the capacity to do that are involved in making people aware about the cyber threats, in having programs based on their tools, technical tools that they are providing. This is not important because in the end, it's knowledge that comes to the people. It's not important on what kind of tools are you doing that. There are other organizations like NGOs that could be involved and supported by the government in order to have such programs. But I think the answer is it's in the end that in order to reach the entire population of a country, for example, we need to involve all the resources we are having, from the governmental side, from the company side, and from the NGO side in general.
Okay, very quickly, I'd just like to jump in. I think I'd like to speak to the part of policy. 16 hours. There was a question that was asked related to policy, and I mean, from my perspective, being an African, I think we've also said it here that it's important to collaborate, and also this means amongst government. So we always push for cross-border policies, and we encourage even governments to have that because this actually works. But speaking from my African perspective, I realize that most of the things, I mean, we have meetings, we come up with drafts, and a typical example is the Malabo Convention. I'm glad to see that Ghana was able to adopt something, but so far, it still hasn't been something that is Africa-wide. There are still a couple of countries that are holding back on it. So perhaps my suggestion also, because I know that government people are here as well, also to encourage cross-border policies is very effective. I think it has worked for the EU with the GDPR, and especially for Africa, it will definitely work for us if we adopt these really good policies. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to add that adopting international policies like the Budapest Convention and the Malabo Convention is very helpful because at the national level, there's some power that the government has in instructing or, let's say, getting someone arrested in another country on cybercrime. There's better relationship in that sense. Otherwise, when you have someone committing a crime in Rwanda and there's no accede into a Budapest Convention or a Malabo Convention, it will be difficult to arrest the person in another country. So policy-wise, I think that it is very important for governments to look more into it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I'm gonna pass the ball to our virtual hubs. They're gonna share some of their perspectives on the topic today. So Yulia, could you please introduce our virtual hubs today?
With pleasure. So we have two hubs joining us today, the Indian Institute of Management, Kashipur, and then Harriet Watt University in Dubai. So I will start by giving the floor right now to Pauna Malorta from the Indian Institute of Management, Kashipur. The floor is yours.
A very warm hello from India to the lovely panelists and participants present here. I am Bhavna from the Indian Institute of Management, Kashipur. And in my opinion, as the adoption of digital technologies rapidly advances across the globe, we need to strengthen our policies as we just discussed. We need to expand and increase secure internet access in targeted emerging markets by enabling market entry for like-minded technology companies. We need to increase adoption of policies and regulatory positions that encourage open, interoperable, reliable, and secure digital infrastructure. And as networks expand, there are intrinsically greater cybersecurity risks that can jeopardize a country's infrastructure. We should therefore invest in the front line of defense against cyber threats, that is, a country's workforce of engineers, bank managers, government officials, or development practitioners. And lastly, as youth, we should ourselves adopt certain practices like not duplicating passwords across accounts. Now, this is where we will all put our accounts at risk. Our passwords do not change per account or services that we use, and also actively reporting suspicious activities so that we can break the chain of online phishing attacks. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Hauna. This was great. And I will take this opportunity to give the floor directly to Megha Sharma from Harriet Watt University in Dubai. Over to you.
Could you please allow me to switch on video?
Please do.
Yeah. I'm not able to, I'm sorry.
That's no problem. You can just keep speaking.
Okay, perfect. So hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Megha Sharma and I'm representing Harriet Watt University from Dubai. So today morning we conducted a workshop on online safety and what we can do as students and youth to ensure that we are feeling safe online. And the way we approached it was first we identified what key vulnerabilities exist online, like phishing attacks, fake news, data breaches, even shopping online. Everything we do is vulnerable. And how can we actually combat this and what ideas can we propose? So what we understood was that we can identify these vulnerabilities because we have a certain level of digital literacy to understand that this is something that's not right. This is something that's harming us. So what we really want to do is improve on digital literacy, especially for vulnerable groups, and approach for each group separately. You know, how we approach digital literacy for elderly versus minor children, and how the psychology plays into that. And we can really enforce these ideas through awareness campaigns like university workshops and discussions to protect ourselves digitally. And the second most important thing is transparency, not just transparency from companies, but also using our own active participation in social media to identify and report these vulnerabilities like the fake news, the phishing, the scams, everything. So we can, once we sort of become active participants and all that, another form of action that we can take is sort of ensure our own digital security by using digital solutions like data encryptions, VPNs, multi-factor authentication, and a lot more. But to use these technology, to use the digital solutions that already exist, I think we really need better authority and better regulation of the solutions as well. For example, UAE's internet service providers have their own VPNs, which can be trusted far better than any third-party VPNs as well. And so what we really believe is that governments need to adapt to these cybercrimes. We propose that IT youth should take further steps in improving digital literacy, not only at school level, but among communities. And lastly, we propose for standardization on safety measures like data encryption, multi-factor authentication, and more to shape a standard of online security. Thank you very much for having us.
And thank you very much. I'm passing the floor back to Juliana.
Thank you so much, Julia. In the interest of time, I'm going to give the opportunity for every panelist to summarize in 3 words or 1 word, if you prefer, what are ways in which we can collaborate to build a safer internet. So very short, just so we can close it. I'll start with maybe Mr. Vint and Ms. Nancy online, and then we can move on to the on-site participants.
I'm afraid that Vin had to leave for another important conference, so maybe we can just give the floor over to Mercy right away.
Okay, thank you very much. My parting shot would be to say that we need to arm ourselves, we need to equip ourselves with education and skills, whether you're young or whether you're an older person, and it takes more than one party. So let's go for collaboration, let's go for multi-stakeholder collaboration and partnership in order to make this dream happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nancy. Now I'll give the floor to Ms. Alicia.
I think she summed it up, but I really just want to say education and empowerment through partnerships and through collaboration. It takes multi-stakeholders to do that, and it takes different groups, especially the youth. So making sure that there's an opportunity to be heard.
Yeah, thank you. It seems we all are seeing from the same direction, but I'd like to add more to it by saying that it's not just formal education, but also let's look to spread awareness about safety when it comes to using the internet. As young people, there are a couple of projects that we can do to reach out to communities around us. Thank you.
Okay, so for me, I'd like to say that online safety cannot be 100%. However, we should consider resilience in online safety, our ability to bounce back after an attack for governments, businesses, and individuals is very important.
There's nothing more to add, but as there are a lot of young people here, I can just ask them to be bold, to continue doing the good work, to be bold and to speak up in order to make their voices heard.
Thank you so much to all the panelists who have participated in the discussion today, and also to the audience for the active engagement and for the questions, and to the online audience. We're now closing the session, but thank you very much for your participation in general.
Please join me thanking our speakers for this great session. Thank you very much, Juliana. And I would appreciate, please, you can take your seat. Thank you very, very much. That was a good conversation. I hope you are also having a good time. How are you? Good. I love that. Good. Muraho. Okay. Now, remember in the morning, I said Mngaramutse. Now, you know, when it's around this time, we change it. Oh, yes. In Rwanda, we say, how are you differently depending on the time. Now, around this time, you say, Mngiriwe. And then you say, Mngiriwe neza. We do it again. Mngiriwe. Amazing. Oh, you guys, do we have Rwandese only here? Am I at the wrong event? Well, we have more conversations going on, rich and diverse in this agenda. And I'm going to ask you to please closely listen, because I don't think I'll be seeing you again. Now, let me really invite you to benefit from these sessions that are they're going to be showing us the sessions. Please remember to connect, remember to plan and talk to the people you do not know and get to know more about them. Let me also encourage you to share the good experiences on your social media. Those that are on TikTok. Oh yes, you can TikTok this moment. Those that are on Twitter, Instagram, hey, your favorite social media channel. It's fine. Remember to tag us on Generation Connect. You will see the hashtag, it's Generation Connect, and the connect is in the caps. That means you scream it out like Generation Connect. So it's, you have to point it out. It's a call to action if you think of it. Let me invite the session coordinators of the next sessions to come to the podium to pitch your sessions. I'll be announcing your name, the session, so you can easily come. I actually, oh, by the way, I heard that the morning sessions were really packed. That was good, and that's why I'm going to be giving you some news. First come, first serve. So if you enter in a session and it's full, please go to the next. You just missed that. All right. Since this is our last plenary session of the day, I'm going to briefly tell you more about the sessions. There are going to be 10 sessions going on. Some of them will go simultaneously at the same time, so you will pick where you want to go, so you can pay attention on the screens. They're going to be displaying them there. Now, starting, it was from 3 to 4 p.m. So let's say we're just 13 minutes behind schedule, but I trust you're going to keep time. On the second floor, we are going to have 2 youth for youth debating sessions. There are going to be 2 youth for youth debating sessions. Let me start with Room Karisimbi, a debating session on the topic of exploring the future of work. If I can have the person that is going to be taking us through that session, use the 30 seconds and tell us why we should be joining you.
Thank you. My name's Benjamin Karenzi, and super excited to be in this room together with my colleagues and all of you here. So the session we're going to have is to explore something very key to most of us, actually, if not all of us, is the future of work. And this is something to do, you all know we are in the age of the 4th industrial revolution, which will bring AI and automation, meaning our careers in one way are at stake, but at the same time, it is a good time to be living because we are transitioning the world into a digital-driven economy. So personally, it's very key for me to be moderating such a session. The fact that a bit of my background is that I studied petroleum economics, worked for in a petroleum ministry, and dropped my job immediately to start selling robots. And I sold robots to schools for studies to help students learn about these coding, programming, assembling, and several other things. But I also sold robots to help the government of Rwanda mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Probably you have heard those at the airport and several others in the hospitals. So it's a very interesting debate we are going to have. Please join us in level 2, Karisimbi room. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. I hope you're not planning on making MC robots. I need my job. We also have in another room called Ubumnge, a debate session on bridging the gender digital divide. Oh yes, somebody is going to tell you more about it in a few seconds, and I hope you join them.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matilda. I work for Nokia. And for those of you who have met me through the summit, there is really one topic that is very close to my heart. And from what I hear is very close to the heart of a lot of people in this room. And it's the digital divide. But specifically, it's intersectioning topics, especially the gender digital divide. So how do we make more women come to ICT, come to STEM, and really come and change the industry, which for me is the real issue in tech industry. I need more women aside me to come and work and change and lead the innovation. So please join us. We're going to be in room Ubumwe. I hope I said that right. And yeah, please join us. It's going to be a fantastic debate. We have great facilitators from all around the world. So happy to see you there. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Actually, the room is called Ubumwe, and in Kinyarwanda, it means unity. Hey, it's time to bridge. In parallel, we're going to be having another session on the second floor, Technology and Gaming Hub. Technology and Gaming Hub. 2 of them actually that are going to be doing. So please, yes, please, it's very, very fine. The whole team is here. They're here to tell you why you should join them. Thank you very much.
We have very limited time because we want you all to come upstairs. I'm Marcus. I saw some of you last night at dinner. My co-founder and I, we launched a nonprofit helping low-income communities and under-resourced schools use the metaverse and virtual reality to transform education and also upskill and leapfrog their careers into metaverse designers. And I'm going to turn it over to 3 more interesting people.
Very excited. Everyone is welcome to join us at the Technology Hub, 2nd floor. You just walk upstairs, two flights of stairs, and you'll see us. You can't miss us. And there's 5 very interesting activities where you can learn how to actually bring digital objects into the metaverse, how to have a career, how to develop a career as a creator in the metaverse. And more importantly, to sign up for the Global Metaverse for SDGs Global Prize in VR competition. And so we're excited to see you there soon.
Hello, my name is Samantha Aguilar. So I just wanted to say to not be afraid of the technology at all. It is more of a creative process. So communication skills, storytelling, that's what's the most valuable in this metaverse.
Hello, we are Abby and Leah from EY, and we would love to welcome you upstairs at the booth to present to you the EY STEM app. 2nd floor, what can you expect? Trying out the mobile application to equip you with the digital skills that are required to succeed in the future of work. And Abby?
And by trying out the app today, you can enter a raffle to win some exciting prizes like Samsung Galaxy phones, AirPods. So please come to join us, and we can't wait to see you. Thanks.
I picked the last sentence, winning prizes. I hope you got that too. Now, on the 1st floor at Room Gasabo, we will have another session. The theme is very simple. How can you harness the power of technology for a more equal future? Now, I'm going to ask you to, before you go, please, because others are also going to be listening in, and we are serving those who come first. So it's best we all leave at the same time. That way we all choose where we want to go. Can I ask that favor, please? Thank you very much. Just give me top 2 minutes. All right, amazing, please. Thank you very much. Just one more. This is organized by EY, ITU, GSMA, and W for taking us through this moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Tamara here with GSMA. Hi, everybody. Lindsay of W4. Don't go. You're going to miss the best session as much as we love the other sessions. How to harness the power of technology for a more equal future at 4 o'clock in Rungasabo, 1st floor. We have an exciting surprise in store for all of you, wonderful youth change enablers. We don't have prizes, we have free gifts. A free gift, it's an opportunity to explore new tech skills, to improve your tech skills free of charge through an innovative mobile app. We know digital skills can open up wonderful employment opportunities, and this is a fun, engaging way to boost your digital skills and your digital assets, so be sure to join us. And we have a special guest at the end, Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Director of the ITU Telecommunication Development Bureau, so don't miss her closing remarks. Don't miss the session. We look forward to seeing you there. Hopefully you liked our pitch.
Thank you very much. For those who are leaving, I actually have more announcements of how you will be leaving from this place. So please don't go. Let's really end this in style. Now, some of us are losing, or maybe you missed some of your items. Please, you'll go at the reception or at the entrance, you'll get it. For example, somebody lost a phone, and if you lost a phone, you will find it there. Now, we are going into the sessions that are starting from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and I don't want to take much of your time. On the 1st floor, Room Gasabo will be having, okay, we just had that one. On the 2nd floor, Karisimbi Room, we are having Being Relevant in Future Jobs Economy. I would love to be part of this, and somebody who's going to be pitching it, please come and tell us more about it. It's organized by Exponential Destiny. All right. You can also go to the auditorium, we'll have a session dedicated to discuss Youth Call to Action, My Digital Future Stands Today. I hope you will stay for that. And that is at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Still in that range, on the 1st floor in Room Gasabo, we'll have the session of La Francophonie, numérique ou service de jeunesse. They should have told me it's in French. I hope I have tried. Organized by Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie. Oh yes, you can read. Amazing. we keep going with the session. On the second floor at the room Ubumge, this is still from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. We will have a session, Youth and Artificial Intelligence, Designing Our Possible Futures. Please, you could read. It's going to be in room Ubumge. And this is organized by Foundation Botna, AI Future Lab, Global Shapers, the Lausanne and Financial Times, Commission on Governing Health Futures 2030, and AI for Good. Going on the next one, on the second floor at room Amahoro, we'll have our first monitoring session. Please go there. Would love to know more about your reflections. Also at the second floor at room Karisimbi, we are having self-guided reflections. I hope you go. And finally, oh yes. All right. Did I miss your session? All right.
Now I want to do the pitch to the call to action, which is at 4. It will be here. We've been working for 2 years with consultations with young people. And so we'll have a session today and a session tomorrow. And a lot of people already have shared their comments. We shared the draft about a week ago. So we hope to hear more comments, and also how to take the call to action forward. We want to hear from you. What do you want us to do with it after this event? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I had said, and finally, we will come together at exactly 6:15 or 18:15 for the spotlight session. Now I'm going to ask you something on a personal level. Yesterday, it was a bit hard for someone to listen. The speakers could struggle for your attention. Could we make sure that this time around we give them some time? In fact, we're going to have it before dinner, so that dinner becomes dinner, the spotlight becomes the spotlight, the relationship will come in later. So please help us and give us your attention at that moment. 6:15. Now, we'll then get together. 6:15 is going to be at the pavilion for the spotlight session. Good news, 7 p.m. sharp, dinner will be served and ready. Please, if you're not interested in the spotlight session, you can easily join us at 7 p.m., right? But why wouldn't you be interested? It's the spotlight session. You should be. If you are there, I'll meet you. And I would love to tell you that throughout this afternoon, as yesterday, the buses will be ready to take you back at the hotels after dinner. You'll see the names of the hotels on the buses, so they could easily take you back. Please feel free to ask anyone to help you on that. Now, please keep checking online, because I must have missed something. Go online and check the program, know which room, where do you go to, how to navigate yourself through the room. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the afternoon. I hope you're ready to have a good time. Go, connect, and enjoy. Enjoy this afternoon, and all the best with the summit. Thank you very much.